Honestly, I think once we got things going.
And welcome into a new hour of CBS Sports HQ. Amanda Guerra here with you, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. We are about to give you picks for Week 16 in the NFL, but first we are following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, where for the first time all season, former NFL quarterback, current CBS Sports HQ analyst, Braden Tyler Quinn is above 500. Breaking news here, Quinn so far suffering absolute defeat at the hands of Pete Prisco. He is still behind in the standings. Quinn, however, going 11-5 in Week 15. Here's more from Brady Quinn, the ghost of Christmas past.
Honestly, I think once we got things going in the first half, kind of going in with our, more or less 2 minute, I think we really started to kind of feel a rhythm and realize that we weren't out of this game. Although the score made it seem like we were out of the game, we still knew we had faith in each other. We believed that we could pull it out in the end.
Oh my God.
I wish I could flick you guys off, because I would right now, I swear. I'd give you the bird right here, right now, if I could.
It was so
By the way,
golden. Look
there
at
was
this,
a lot,
congratulations.
There was a lot more on the front back then.
No, I just did it different.
No, I don't know.
I can't have that kind of look on TV now.
I don't know, Brady. Welcome home. Come to the club.
It's about week. I mean, because both of you went 11-5.
Isn't that great,
but there was maybe I
No.
should have been better than 11-5. But however, I got the Browns at -6 before the Baker Mayfield Case Keenum news came out. And of course, Pete doesn't give me the opportunity to change since we locked in before.
I feel like
that.
he's trying to do that today.
Didn't we have a time when I was trying to change and you said no?
No. That was actually our producer, Jack, who said that you had submitted it.
Yeah,
and then
but
you
then-
tried to claim afterwards that it was a different pick.
It was. It was. And you wouldn't let me change.
That's
it.
a little
now we're
different
even.
scenario here.
Now we're even, and you went 11-5, and I can congratulations, Brady. But you didn't pick up any ground. Isn't that great?
Well,
None. You picked up no ground.
I did beat your ass last week.
I did. But overall, are you winning?
Well, I'm climbing back. I'm what, 3 games back?
You're 3 games back.
How many weeks we got?
You got
3 weeks left.
Are you winning?
Oh, just give me time.
Right now, are
Give me
you winning?
time.
Why won't you say it?
You know
You're
what?
one of those guys that can never say you're losing.
Here's the reality. You don't win in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter.
Well, we heard that.
You win
I mean, we heard
you
it in
win
the soundbite,
fourth
right?
quarter.
Right.
We're in
Right.
the fourth quarter right now, Pete.
Right. But
game's on the line.
Are you
Let's
losing
go.
in the fourth quarter right now?
No.
Yes, you
Fourth quarter
are.
just started.
You're losing.
No, the fourth quarter of the season literally just started. It's 11-5. We both went 11-5.
You can never admit that you're losing or you're wrong.
The
It's
fourth
amazing.
quarter of the season, I beat you last week. This
I'm going to
past
have to
week, we
interrupt him
tied.
at some point.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we heard it in the soundbite there. Right. Despite what the score says, you're not out of the game yet. You're starting the fourth quarter.
He's not out of the game, but he's losing.
All right, let's get some picks. Let's see if Brady can, in fact, even it out with Pete. By the way, congrats. Over 500. Big deal.
Thanks,
big deal. Thursday Night Football, 49ers to Titans. We got playoff implications for both of these teams. There is a potential in a couple different ways for the Titans to clinch their division. 49ers favored by 3 on the road. The total's 44. Brady, you're over 500. We'll start with you.
On the short week, this one was tough for me to pick because I do think the Tennessee Titans could find a way of pulling this one out. I think you look at both teams right now, you wonder what the Tennessee Titans really are without Derrick Henry, who, by the way, it's incredible when you think about the fact he's still, at this point in time, top 5 in rushing yards in the NFL, top 5 in rushing touchdowns. He hasn't played since October, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But that being said, they're 3-3 since his absence. It's an entirely different team in offense. So that being said, I'm on the side of San Francisco. I think they're the hotter team right now. Jeff Wilson stepped up last week running the football. You see how Kyle Shanahan utilizes Deebo Samuel as well to the backfield. And what about Jimmy Garoppolo, Pete? He's playing some good football. We never give him enough credit that he deserves. He's smart, he's a good decision maker, and he can deliver the football when he needs to. So I'm going to go with the team that I think also is battling COVID less, considering the Tennessee Titans are missing their entire left side of their offensive line, and they're at their third string left tackle, Pete. It could be tough sledded for Ryan Tannehill.
I'm going against my Paisan in this one. I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. Look, I'm going to give Jimmy Garoppolo a ton of credit. He's been outstanding. He really has.
Paisan passion?
Paisan passion. We saw it. Remember, where was that? In Chicago, I think it was. Paisan passion. He showed it. And he's played really well. And people don't give him credit. Oh, Trey Lance, put him in, get him in there. Jimmy Garoppolo has played well. But tonight, this is about the running game. And when you look at these two teams, both of them have the same style. Run it, throw off the run. They all want to do it. The Tennessee Titans give up 2.7 yards per rush in the last 4 games. 2.7. That's outstanding. Jeffrey Simmons got snubbed for the Pro Bowl. He's going to be a beast tonight. They will dominate the line of scrimmage. I'm taking the Tennessee Titans to win the game outright.
I worry about the outside zone running scheme. When you see Tennessee give up some big runs, it tends to be away from your guy Jeffrey Simmons and to the outside. That's where I think they'll be able to make hay if they can running the football versus Tennessee.
The Rams couldn't do it.
True, but this
Same
is,
scheme.
Hey,
Rams couldn't do it.
You might say same scheme, but it seems like San Francisco executes a little bit.
They run the ball better.
Yes.
They run the ball better.
Either way, starting on opposite sides to begin.
Well, I
So
like
it's going
it.
to be an interesting Week 16 here. Browns and Packers, it was already going to be tough for the Browns. Kevin Stefanski's back. That's great. Austin Hooper's back. Baker Mayfield, still not sure if we're going to see him. Packers undefeated at home this season so far. The Packers are favored by 7.5. The total 45 and a hook. Pete, where'd he go?
And where's Myles Garrett? That's the question. You know, he hurt that groin. It looked like he was limping through the rest of that game. Where is he? Can he play? If he plays, is he healthy? That's the concern because you lost Tack McKinley. So who rushes the passer? You're playing Aaron Rodgers, and you can't rush the passer. He will have a field day. He will light them up. I think Green Bay's the better team by far, and we know what Cleveland wants to do. Whoever's playing quarterback, they're another team that wants to run the football. They'll probably run the ball and try and keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. And then when you do that, you look up and you go, oh no, I'm down 17-0. What do I do now? So I think the Packers are the pick here. I think they handle this game easily with or without Baker Mayfield.
I think that's the only concern you have if you're betting this game and you want to lay the 7.5 points over the hook, is if the Cleveland Browns can run the football effectively enough, play keep away from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he makes a mistake, which is just oh so rare, especially in Lambeau. If this game was in Cleveland, maybe you feel a little different about it, but I'm with you. You laid the 7.5 points here. Aaron Rodgers has put himself now at the top of that MVP list, at least in my opinion, with the way he's played this year. So, again, they're almost unbeatable at home. I don't know that there's actually another quarterback that has the type of advantage and plays as well at home as Aaron Rodgers does at Lambeau. So I'm laying the 7.5 points here. I think he has a big game.
Wonder what the line is. This line reflective of Baker being in the game or Baker Mayfield being out of the game? Because 7.5 seems like a lot if Baker Mayfield's in the game. I would still lay it, but what if it's Nick Mullins? I mean, is 7.5? Is that the same, or does that go to 9.5?
I was going to say, if it ends up being Baker Mayfield, I could see this coming down to 7, maybe 6.5 within that. If it ends up truly being Nick Mullins, it could go as high as 8.5.
You think they hedged with the line a little bit?
I think at this point
like
in time in the week, yeah.
I'd lay it anyways. They blow them out.
All right, let's talk about this one. Colts at Cardinals. This is a tough one here. You get the Colts coming to account. Cardinals have dropped their past 2. They haven't been great at home this season. You got Jonathan Taylor coming to town. That's scary enough for me. The Cardinals are favored by 1 in this one. But Pete, you got faith in the Cardinals here.
I do. And again, I'm going to go back to a theory we've thrown around here all year. Big win for Indianapolis
versus Patriots last week.
They got to go out on the road. Short week, playing on the road. Cardinals coming off a bad loss. They will be refocused. And here's something about the Indianapolis Colts that I'm concerned about. They don't rush the passer well enough. We saw that against Mac Jones last week. In the second half, he stood back there and did whatever he wanted to do. It was easy for him. And I think Kyler Murray will have an easy time throwing the football. Yes, they can run the ball. That's their identity. I get it. But I think that the Cardinals will be much more focused here than normal. I think they're going to win this game, and it won't even be a field goal. I think it's going to be more than that.
It's basically a pick 'em, right? You're talking about a point here. And so I'm going to be on the other side. I'm going to take the Colts. I think they're playing better football collectively as a unit. What concerns me about Arizona is they've physically gotten beaten up the past 2 weeks. That's what we're talking about. It's not like the Detroit Lions are a more talented team. They just physically beat them up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. And that's exactly what Indy's going to want to do on offense, run the football with Jonathan Taylor. And then you look defensively, and I think, yeah, they might not rush the passer well, but I also don't know if that's really your key to success versus Kyler Murray. It sounds crazy, but I think when you rush him, oftentimes teams create running lanes for him. And that's when he takes off and hurts you. So if we're basically saying this to pick him or you're going to give me a point, I'll take the point here with the Indianapolis Colts. My only concern is Carson Wentz. You go back and watch the tape. And by the way, they'll have a week's rest there. It'll be a full week for the Colts. It won't be for the Cardinals. But you go back and watch that tape. There was probably 3 different passes that should have been picked off. Maybe one that should have been a pick 6. And none of that obviously went the way of the New England Patriots. So you wonder here if Carson Wentz gets in a tight game, if we see him start to make some of those bad decisions we saw early in the season, but sort of before they just started handing the football off. So I think the difference in this game is the physicality of the Colts. And what we saw the Arizona Cardinals is kind of like a glaring weakness at this point in time in the season for them.
You're bucking my trend. You're bucking the trend of a big game victory and a loss the next week.
I just think we've got a good idea of how the Colts and what their identity is right now. And unfortunately, the identity for the Cardinals is, what have they been the past 2 years?
Right.
They get that second half of the season.
They swoon.
They start to all of a sudden fall by the wayside.
I think they regroup here.
Well, I mean, that's your opinion. I don't think that's going to be the case versus the Colts.
Yeah, that's not what you said when we walked in, but that's a whole other story.
Not about the Colts. There's a chance I could regret this. Cardinals are playing at home. That's about it.
I love the beginning of this so far, especially the way the show started. All right, recapping their picks, so they really only agree in one area, both taking the Packers to cover the 7.5. Pete saying, what, you take it up to like 8.5 or something
I'd
like
lay
that.
9 or 10 even in this.
All right, so very confident there in the Packers. But on opposite sides when it comes to the 49ers at Titans and Colts at Cardinals, we'll see who regrets their decision when it's all said and done. Coming up next, we got the AFC East on the line here. Bills at Patriots. The Bills looking for revenge, but can they find it in Foxborough? We'll talk to the guys about that next.
Christmas Day in the NFL will feature 2 out-of-conference matchups, both with major playoff implications. In Green Bay, the Packers will look to inch closer towards locking up the #1 seed in the NFC as they host the Cleveland Browns. But the Dog Pound are looking to get out of the doghouse, fresh off a disappointing last-second loss to the Raiders, which dealt a major blow to their playoff hopes. They now find themselves in the unenviable position of needing a win at Lambeau, something no team has done in the regular season since November of last season.
I feel like we've been trending for a while, and the last 2 games, we've played some pretty damn good football on offense.
The nightcap features 2 teams going opposite directions, with the Colts heading to the desert to take on the Cardinals. Back in Week 8, Indy was parked at 3-5, already swept by the division rival Titans. But then they came to life, winning 5 out of their last 6 on the shoulders of NFL rushing leader Jonathan Taylor. Now, they sit just 1 game back of Tennessee.
We're going to play all 4 quarters, 60 minutes. We're going to play hard-nosed Colts football, and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a dogfight.
For the Cardinals, just a couple weeks ago, they were the #1 seed in the entire NFC. They've since lost their star wideout DeAndre Hopkins and have dropped 2 straight, including an ugly loss to the lowly Lions.
We got to talk about it and face it. All of us got to look ourselves in the mirror and figure out why it was like that, because that hadn't been us all year.
So who will seize the moment in prime time? Playoff futures hang in the balance on Christmas Day.
All right, taking a look at the Sunday early afternoon games you're going to get on CBS. Now, I will tell you when it comes to our picks, things are getting very heated right now because the thing is we're not sure if we're going to see Lamar Jackson, who, of course, has been dealing with that injury. The Ravens saying as of right now he's day to day. Now, Pete Huss, his pick is locked in. Brady, on the other hand, is just making wild changes over here. But we're not going to start with that game. We're actually going to start with the top 2 teams in the AFC East. We got Bills at Patriots here. New England, guys, they can clinch the division with a win and a Dolphins loss. Of course, we got the Bills looking for revenge from earlier in the season. So the Patriots favored by 2.5 at home. The total here, 43 and a hook. Pete, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm on the Bills on this one. I think, first off, let me get this out of the way. I hate wind in NFL games. Hate it. Totally despise it. It ruins the passing game.
Did you say wind?
Wind.
Hate it.
What, you just don't like any weather in particular.
I don't mind snow because it makes the offense better. I don't mind if it's cold, but when it's windy, it takes the passing game away. And that last game between these 2 teams was terrible football to watch. I hated every bit of it. Well, it's not supposed to be windy this week. It might be a little snowy. That'll help the passing team, and the passing team is the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills will go in there and really show the Patriots what they can do on offense. I think Josh Allen's going to have a big day throwing it. I love the Buffalo Bills in the spot. And by the way, they won't clinch the division if they win, but if you look at their next 2 opponents, they essentially will because they'll win both those games. They're easy opponents, and they will. Winner of this game will win the division.
What do you make of last week's Patriots performance? Because I'm still trying to kind of figure that one out. And I don't know if they just went out and kind of laid an egg, or maybe that's more the reality of what that team really is. Where
Block punt, though, it's hard to.
Special teams played a factor, that's true, and it always could, right? The reality is, I just don't know how good the Patriots team really is. They have to play a certain style of football. Their defense has to get turnovers. They have to be able to run the football. If not, outside of a controlled passing game, it's a lot on a rookie like Mac Jones, and he's susceptible to making mistakes. They don't have a great downfield passing game. So the reality is, if New England can play their style at home, yeah, this thing could be close. But even then, with 2.5 points, I'll gladly take it in the Buffalo Bills. I just think they have a better chance of opening things up and creating bigger plays throughout the course of this game. And if you're going to put me, the quarterback skills out there, I'll gladly take Josh Allen right now. Even as good as Mac Jones has been as a rookie, over, what Mac kind of presents, or at least what this offense presents. So the reality is, to me, I think Buffalo gets off to a fast start. They put a lot of pressure on the Patriots offense that wants to be more balanced, and they're not going to be able to be.
They were putting him in the Hall of Fame after his first part of his career, and then he came out last week and was very average for most of that game. And he got them back into the game because they can't rush the passer. Are you concerned about him going forward being able to drive the football down the field at all?
No, I don't have any concerns about that. I think they need to find some bigger playmakers that can get down the field. I mean, that's the biggest reality. If you had Philadelphia's roster of wide receivers and all the speed they have, and you put that on the New England Patriots, you're probably going to see a different result. I think in their passing game, how they go about doing it, but also the results, too, for Mac Jones. I mean, he never had an issue with that Alabama, and I don't think he's going to have an issue in New England either.
We're going against Bill Belichick off a loss. What are we doing?
At home, by the way.
Yes, right, but we're taking Buffalo.
Both of you are brave. I mean, you both went 11-5 last season. That worked out for you. Let's go to the AFC North. For the first time, the Ravens are not in first place. It's about October 31st. It is now the Bengals. Not sure what you guys thought of Jim Harbaugh going for 2 there. Not sure if we're going to see Lamar. Day-to-day as of right now, if not, they're ready to go with Tyler Huntley. Pete, we'll start with you here because you had your pick locked in first.
Well, I got him winning 1 Super Bowl in the next 9 years, the Cincinnati
Bengals favored by 3, by the way.
And it won't happen this year, so I'm going to have 1 and 8.
Yeah. Some people would say 2, by the way.
But this is a good team. This is a good football team, and they dominated the Ravens the last time out. Just dominated them. And they threw the ball against them, and I think they're going to do it again. The Ravens are decimated this secondary. They're decimated on defense. They have a ton of guys out. I don't know how they stop them. And by the way, we talk about Lamar Jackson. It wasn't like he was playing good football before he went out. In fact, Huntley played better. Let's be honest about it. He had better stats and better numbers, and a lot of it came at the end of the game. But he got him to within a point in that game. So I don't think it matters if Jackson's in the game. I think this is a Bengals moment, and this is their chance to seize the division. And I think the winner of this game wins the division, and I think it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals.
I'm with you on that last point. This really is kind of that, you could say, make or break it. And whoever wins this is in the driver's seat for the AFC North, hosting a home playoff game, if you will, with the way the rest of the schedule plays out. I do think it matters, though, if Lamar is playing in this. As good as Tyler Huntley showcased himself in garbage time coming in for Lamar, then obviously versus Green Bay, he's not the same type of dynamic runner. Now, you might make the case that he's a little bit more of a polished passer at this point. You could even have said that when he was coming out of Utah, at least looking at him in college. So, all that being said, it does matter if Lamar's playing. I just wonder how healthy he's going to be and how dynamic he can be. Either way, at this point, my advice would be wait and see who ends up starting before you make this bet. Because I think the line's going to move one way or another.
We can't
if Lamar
wait.
Plays. And that's why I'm picking the Bengals.
Okay.
I'm going to lay the 3 points. I'm going to be with the Cincinnati Bengals here. I think that's the safer play at this point in time in the week.
By the way, I didn't say it doesn't matter if Lamar plays. Of course you want Lamar Jackson in the lineup.
It's going to matter for the line. That's
Lamar
for sure.
officially, by the way, did not practice today. He's
Right.
not practiced
So,
all week.
well, if he does,
he doesn't need to practice. I mean,
no,
the
but
bottom.
can he move? That's the question.
Yes.
Can he move like Lamar Jackson? If he can move like Lamar Jackson, it matters that he's in the game because Huntley doesn't move like that at all.
He can move,
Not
but
like that. No.
that's a different. That's a guy.
That's special.
Yes, you don't see that come along very often.
All right, we get Chargers and Texans. Big thing for the Chargers right now, COVID issues going on. No Joey Bosa officially. Austin Eckler, Corey Linsley, right now they're on the COVID list. Not sure if we're going to see them. Possibly, not sure. Chargers favored by 10 in Houston. They're the total 45 and a hook. Brady, we'll start with you.
This is one where it's a big line, and you worry with the COVID concerns for the Chargers in this case. I'm betting on Justin Herbert, though, and I think just there's a big discrepancy between these two teams. I know we've seen Davis Mills play some better football the past couple of weeks, but there's also this growing concern that David Culley could be a one and done as a head coach for the Houston Texans, and that's kind of out there, and you wonder how that's going to hit the team. I think you look at Herbert and the way he's played this year, even without some of their pieces, they still should be able to put up enough points versus the Texans team that I think at times struggles to score and is going to have a hard time putting pressure on him and stopping this passing attack. So it's a big number, but look, if I'm going to lose out on this bet, I'd much rather lose out and giving 10 points and betting with Justin Herbert than Davis Mills and the Houston Texans, Pete.
I'm barking with the dogs this week. I'm taking one here. I think this is one, like you always say there's one you're going to regret. I think this is one I might end up regretting. But no Joey Bosa is enormous for this defense. I mean,
if he doesn't test back into it.
No, he's not vaccinated.
Out.
He's
Right.
out.
Yeah, he's
so,
unvaccinated.
and Derwin James is questionable as well for this game. So there's concerns about that defense for me. And I think Davis Mills has played well. Now, Brandon Cooks also on the COVID list, so we'll see how that plays out. But 10 points, too many. Give me the points. I'm barking with the dogs this week. This is one. Next week, you're going to go, remember when you said you would regret that? You regretted it, but I'm taking them anyway.
All right, finally, we got Jags and Jets here. The 2-12 Jags going up against the 3-10 Jets. It's a pick 'em, total 41.5. I mean, you got to make a play.
Well, the best play is the under.
Of course.
I mean, neither offense, can really score points at this point in time. Weather could play a factor. We'll have to wait and see once we get there. But I kind of like what I've seen out of the Jets, though, since Zach Wilson's come back. And I think they focus more on running the football, even though this team's been hit with COVID a little bit, too. They'll be missing some pieces. I still think of the two teams, they're the better of the two. The thing that stinks is we got robbed of what could have really been that 1 versus 2 battle where you'd be focusing on just the quarterbacks. And unfortunately, with the way the things went for the Jaguars this year, Urban Meyer now not being there, the way the Jets season has been, I don't want to say got disrupted, but Zach Wilson being out for a period of time, going through a carousel of quarterbacks, it's not exactly how I envisioned it, a la Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. That being said, to pick him at this point, I'll go with the home team. I'll go with the Jets. Hopefully things will clear up themselves as far as COVID goes moving forward, at least for the Jets.
In a million years, I never thought I'd say this before the season.
Okay.
An offense with Trevor Lawrence is one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my history of covering this league. They are dreadful. They can't throw it. They can't catch it. They can't block. He's struggling. His mechanics have waned. They don't run it well enough. The system stinks. It's a terrible offense. Terrible with a capital T, which is why they're not going to cover this game. You're right, though. It'll be low scoring. They average like 12 points a game or something like that. They're not going to score points. The Jets won't score points. The under's the play, but I also take the Jets as well.
Darrell Bevell did turn over play calling duties to Brian Schottenheimer, so we'll see if that plays any impact whatsoever.
He could bring in a combination of Bill Walsh and the greatest play callers of all time, and you still can't score with that team. They're bad. They don't stretch.
You guys can argue. You argue under our confetti and don't even acknowledge the
He's not a confetti guy.
I'm not a confetti guy.
He could be.
I don't want to agree with you. I want to be on the other side of every pick. So
yeah, and
it's a pick 'em. I mean, you had every opportunity to take the Jags here.
But recapping these picks, you guys really just disagree in one area. And that's about it. Look at that agreement. You're both taking the Bills. You're both taking the Bengals. Technically, Brady. Opposite sides when it comes to the Chargers and Texans. And lock unity for the Jags at Jets there. All right, those are the 1 o'clock games on CBS. Let's take a look at some other 1 o'clock games we're going to get on Sunday afternoon as well. The Rams taking on the Vikings. Some news there when it comes to the Vikings and technically the Rams. Vikings officially out with Dalvin Cook officially out of that game. We'll talk about that. Cam Akers could potentially make a return to the Rams at some point. But first, what I will not sing, we got Pete Prisco spinning top of the week.
Pete Prisco's spinning top of the week.
Here it is, Pete.
Look at this. It's snowing. It's the holiday spinning top of the week. I love it. Look at Mason Cole, number 52, the right guard. One of the worst performances I've seen from an offensive lineman in a long time. Now, he's working against a good player.
Akeem Hicks is one of the best.
But he's not the only one that got the best of them. Just keep rolling the tape. I mean, it was just dreadful. Look here. Here you go. I mean, it's just awful. He just gives and gives and gives, and he gets Kirk Cousins back.
It is that time of year, though. It's the giving season.
So he just decided he was going to give up a bunch of pressures, right?
Look at this.
Look at this. I mean, my gosh. Come on.
This is you handing out Cole, Pete.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I'm trying to figure out why they put such a happy, snowy set on here. They should have given it to Cole. I mean, Mason Cole deserved Cole. How about that? He deserved Cole. And bah humbug.
You're saying he was naughty, is what you're saying.
Huh?
He was
He's on the naughty list.
Yeah, he's on the naughty list. All right.
We should give you like a bag of coal that you can just hand out to people.
I'd give out one for him because he tried to change his pick here today.
Okay, let's go to the Rams at Vikings here. Rams battling it out with the Cardinals for the top spot in the NFC West. Vikings, as I mentioned, although they are holding that last playoff spot in the NFC, no Dalvin Cook for this one. Rams favored by 3 on the road, total 49.5.
Mason Cole, here comes Aaron Donald, buddy. It doesn't get any better than that. It's going to be tough for them. They better double him the entire game. I like the Vikings in this spot. Even without Dalvin Cook, I think this is one of those games where you get a team on a short week going on the road. It's going to be a tough challenge. The Vikings are desperate. The Rams are playing for seeding. The Vikings are playing for their playoff lives. And by the way, Would they throw the ball down the field once in a while? You have Jefferson, and Thielen's going to be back this week, I think, and Osborne has emerged, and they didn't throw it enough the other night. I hated the game plan. Throw the ball down the field. I think you could attack the Rams. I like Minnesota to win the game outright.
Well, they're going to have to throw the football in this one because I think this is going to be a high-scoring game.
I agree.
Really excited to see Justin Jefferson, Jalen Ramsey, that battle between those two, but you kind of talked about it. My biggest concern in taking the 3 points and the home dog here in the Minnesota Vikings is Aaron Donald. And it's not even so much how much attention they give him, it's then how that impacts Leonard Floyd and Von Miller. And we kind of saw that last week, too. So much attention goes on Aaron Donald. Even when you can stop him, it then frees up and gives opportunities for other one-on-ones. So that's going to be the challenge, I think, for the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. I think they'll be balanced enough to be able to manage that. But I think it's going to be a close game. High-scoring, close game. I think in the end, I'm not saying the Vikings win, but I think they keep it within the 3 points.
All right, Bucs at Panthers. Bucs getting a big number there on the road. They're favored by 10 in this one, the total 44. Pete, you're taking the Panthers to cover.
I am. I just think not having Godwin and maybe not having Evans changes the dynamic of that team. Forget about Leonard Fournette. The running backs, they're replaceable. But they're going to change the way they play. And I think this defense has waned a little bit and struggled a little bit in Carolina lately, but I do think they're going to be able to hold Tom Brady in check in this game. And I think on the other side of the ball, my concern is the defensive line of Tampa Bay. We say that every week, but last week they played 3 backups, 2 starting tackles were out, and they got barely any pressure. And I know it's Taysom Hill, but Cam Newton can move around too, which is why I think he's starting in this game.
Well, the play here is the under. All right, bottom line is because if Carolina's saying going into the game saying we're going to play Cam and Sam Darnold, that's never a good sign. I don't know how that works out.
I picked Carolina, by the way. Who are you taking?
I'm laying the points of the Tampa Bay Bucs. This has a lot more to do with the Tom Brady bet than anything else. I mean, the reality is it's just hard to bet into an offense that's already said they're going to play both quarterbacks going into it. Maybe Matt Rule feels like that gives them a schematic advantage. I just think this offense is trying to find itself this entire season, regardless of who's at quarterback. I mean, hell, they already fired their offensive coordinator for a reason. So this might be a game where literally you see Tampa Bay end up winning 21-10 when it's all said and done. Low-scoring game.
17-10.
Well, that's because then it would cover what you think is going to be. My thing is I do think you'll get some other piece involved. Antonio Brown should be back. We'll see what impact he has. As you said, they'll still be able to run the football with that offensive line. I'm curious to see if they can get Le'Veon Bell up to speed, who apparently was going to be boxing if he didn't sign with the Tampa Bay
Maybe he should
Bucs.
be boxing because he can't run
He's
anymore.
boxers.
I don't know. You went to the fight recently.
Yeah, that was great.
Hey, he should be boxing because he can't run anymore. He's slower than hell.
Well, we saw what
I
happened
actually
to
think
Frank
he'll be
Gore.
okay behind this offensive line because he doesn't have to do it for a season. He just needs to do it for a few weeks. Let's say 3 weeks, maybe a little more than that. But
Look at
we'll
a
see.
young guy. Come on.
They've got some young guys they'll put in there. I think the Bucs will have some young players step up, and they'll be able to cover that number. They'll be able to win this game.
By the way, 21-10. If it's 21-10, you're going to be sweating. You're laying 10 points.
I don't care. It's still a win. A win's a win. This ain't horseshoes.
All right, let's move on. We got the Giants at the Eagles here. Eagles winning 4 of their past 5. They are favored by 9.5. Giants, no more Daniel Jones. Now, on my paper, my little paper initially.
No, it's Eagles.
It had Brady taking the Giants, but something's changed, Brady.
No, nothing's changed. I'm taking the Eagles. I mean, the reality is, looking at how they played, I mean, Nick Sirianni's out. I don't know how to.
Right here on the paper, it says
I know.
Giants.
And I talked to him beforehand.
But I did that and you wouldn't let me. So Giants.
not true.
Giants. It says Giants.
Yeah, you're in jury duty.
It says on Giants on the paper.
That's not who I'm picking. I'm picking the Eagles. You want to talk about the game or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The Eagles actually still in a position at this point, I think, at least claw back into it. You know, a winning season, a much better feeling on how things have gone this year. I don't think they're a playoff team by any means, but I do think this is an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to kind of put his stake in. Hey, I'm the quarterback here. Build around me in the offseason. And that's what I think you're going to see in this game. The Giants, on the other hand, you know, I'm not sure what to make of them putting Daniel Jones on the shelf and protecting him at this point. I don't know if that's a sign of, hey, we're going to keep him and then protect him, build out around him in the future, or if that's more of a sign of, we don't know what we're going to do with him, but we know we're probably going to have a new general manager. We'll let him make that decision when he comes in here.
Who would you play, Glennon or Fromm? I would play Fromm. Absolutely.
100%. Yeah. You know what you have in Mike Glennon. You need to see what you have in Jake Fromm.
Not much in Mike Glennon.
We'll have another game we'll talk about where they have to do something like that.
The Giants beat the Eagles a couple weeks ago. Think about that for a second. The Giants beat the Eagles. That should never have happened. The Eagles would be considered a playoff team if that didn't happen. They'll get revenge here. You mentioned Jalen Hurts. He was outstanding the other night. The best thing about it was, Brady, he only ran for 35 yards or something.
Yep.
He kept his head up. When he moved inside the pocket, he
Well, he
kept his
had
head
to.
up.
He's got the bad ankle.
And I think he's getting better by the week, and I do think that he might be their quarterback of the future. I'm going to see it on Sunday. I think he blows out the Giants.
I think if you feel like the line's too big, by the way, the under is a good play in this one. I think you'll see obviously more scoring from the Eagles than Giants, but I don't see the
Giants don't
offense
score.
doing- That's what I'm
They
saying.
just don't
I don't
score.
see them doing much.
Yeah.
All right, take the under. Lions and Falcons here. Falcons 1-5 at home. Not good. Not sure if we're going to have Jared Goff on the COVID list as of right now. Could potentially return. We're just going to have to see how that goes. Falcons are favored by 5.5. The total 42.5.
I mean, start with P because I'm picking the Lions here. And
What?
I know.
You said you're never picking the Lions again.
Well, they've won me over, all right?
How long
Dan
ago did you
Campbell's
say
won
that?
me over.
About 7 weeks ago, he said he's never taken the Lions
Yeah,
again.
I'm taking them this week.
No, you're not allowed to take them.
So much is
Score 'em
changing,
off.
Brady.
Want me to take Atlanta with you?
No. Take the
Are
Lions.
you sure? You're going to
I
let
want
me
you to
change
have,
it now?
I want you to have the Lions.
Are you sure?
So are you going to try and say this pick is
No,
based
I'm
on
taking the Lions.
Goff playing or not
Dan
playing?
Campbell has won me over. He's won me over.
Is this with or without Goff? Both?
It's as it stands right now.
Okay.
We don't know about Goff.
Funny with that, but not with the Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
it's weird, a little weird. So you take the Lions plus the points with
5.5.
Goff, without Goff.
Correct.
Okay, I'm laying the points. The Falcons have dominated bad teams. I think they're going to beat this team up a little bit. The Lions are full themselves after winning last week, going on the road.
Yeah.
They go out on the road.
They're really peacocking around the locker
out on the road.
after a couple big wins.
The Falcons were in the 49ers game. It might not have looked that way on the scoreboard, but if they were in the red zone 3 times and got no points 3 times.
You know what that means? Bad red zone offense.
Bad
That's
red
what
zone
they've been all
offense.
year.
Well, against the Lions, you don't need to have a good red zone offense because you throw it inside from 40 yards out. I like Matt Ryan in this game. I'll take the Falcons.
Good. I just don't
I
think
can't
they win
wait
by
to see
more
how
than
this
5.5.
goes.
With or without
I hope
Jared
Chris
Goff?
is gone next week so I can be here to see
With
how
or
this
without
goes.
Jared Goff?
All right, let's recap their games that we've got right now. Rams and Vikings, they both like the Vikings. They both like the Eagles as well, but they are on opposite sides when it comes to the Bucs at the Panthers. Brady really liked the under in that one, correct? If I can see my screen.
That's
and then Lions and Falcons on opposite sides.
By the way,
of
we
that
didn't
one
hear
as
his
well.
over-under record last week because he must not have been very
It
good.
wasn't good last week.
Okay, well, usually
It was
come
good
in-
2 weeks ago.
Usually comes in because we don't pick the over-unders, but he does.
He keeps
So if he
track.
has a good week, he spits it right
Weren't
out.
you the one not here last week?
You didn't? No, I was here last week.
It was 2 weeks ago you weren't
Yeah.
here?
You. By the way, so what was your over/under record last week?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Don't recall, but he
It was a
knows that he
losing
won.
record.
Don't
the week
recall.
before.
Losing record.
Am I badgering the witness? Yes. What was your record? You
I
don't
can't
know.
believe someone actually had this dude on jury duty.
Not guilty.
We need to hear about that later. All right, guys, coming up, we're going to take a look at the 4 o'clock games coming up on Sunday. The Steelers on the outside looking in right now when it comes to the playoffs. And if they're going to win, they're going to have to do it in Kansas City. We'll get picks for that and much more coming up. Welcome back into CBS Sports HQ, getting you ready for Week 16 here. Now, as we give you these picks, Brady and Pete, you guys did go 11-5 next week. So regardless, or last week, I should say.
And next week.
Good picks.
And this week.
And this week, and these teams are going to come out on top. Taking a look at the late afternoon games we got coming up there. Broncos, by the way, starting Drew Lock for the injured Teddy Bridgewater there. The Raiders, they got a short game. Steelers on the outside looking in right now when it comes to the playoffs. But as tight as the AFC North is, they can still win that division. So let's get you some picks here. And let's start with the Steelers at the Chiefs there. The Chiefs, however, they're favored by 7 at home. The total here, 45.5. Brady, we'll start with you.
Dealing with COVID issues, though, right? And that's a concern, especially with an offense where if you take away some of their best players, it can be hard to put up points versus a defense that has potentially one of the defensive players of the year and TJ Watt. So I've got concerns whether or not Pittsburgh can keep pace with Kansas City in this case, but I think this is going to be a close game. I think 7 points is too much, even if both teams are healthy. So I'm willing to take the 7 points here. Should be a great game. I'm excited to watch it. I just hope that you get Kansas City at full strength, because if not, it could end up being one of those losses that could potentially play a factor in seeding in the AFC playoff picture. And it's unfortunate because it wasn't due to necessarily the game being a level field. It was due to COVID.
So you had the Steelers as your pick, even if Tyreek Hill and Kelsey are in the lineup.
Correct.
I agree with you. I think this is a spot for the Steelers to go in there. I don't think they're going to win the game, but they're going to hang around. The Steelers have problems stopping the run. They don't stop the run. The Chiefs don't run it. They refuse to run it. And so I think that plays into the strength of the Steelers, like you talked about with TJ Watt being able to attack the quarterback. I like the Steelers in this game. And if Hill and Kelsey are out, the Steelers might be able to win this game. But as it is, I'll take the 7.5. I liked them. At one point, it was like 9, I
Yeah,
think.
it was a much bigger number.
So I would have liked them either way. I like the Steelers.
I say at this point, if you're on the side of the Steelers, you should place the bet now because the number's only going to go down once we get more clarity with Kansas City's offense.
Yep.
All right, we get Broncos, Raiders. Raiders short week, of course, they played Tuesday when they played the Browns because of COVID, had to be rescheduled. Broncos, as I mentioned, they're starting Drew Lock. Teddy Bridgewater is injured. This one's a pick 'em. Total 41 and a hook. Pete?
This line looks so fishy to me.
You mean the lack of line?
It's crazy. When I looked at it, I figured the Raiders would be 4 with Drew Lock in the game. And I like Drew Lock, but
You're discounting Drew Lock that much?
Their offense is bad, no matter who plays.
I think that has more to do with the play calling than anything else.
Okay, well, whatever reason it is, it's not a good offense. And so I think that when you look at the Raiders, I think their offense has kind of gotten a little stagnant too. They haven't played very well. That drive at the end of the game the other day will be something to get them going against Cleveland. I thought they had a really nice drive to go get the points, to get the field goal. I think the Raiders are the pick here, but this is one of those ones, again, where the fish hook is out, and I'm the dumb fish that's going to go over and take a nibble on it because I'm taking the Raiders.
I get what you're saying about it being a backup quarterback, and you figure the home team would get a little bit more love when they're not. I worry because of the matchup. You know, I think when you look at who Derek Carr has to throw to, the Denver Broncos secondary matches up well with pretty much anyone. I mean, they've drafted and built that roster to be able to match up with Kansas City. You better believe they're going to be able to match up with the Raiders as it currently stands with Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards and Hunter Renfrow. So, you know, where's this offense going to come from? Are the Raiders going to be all of a sudden able to run the football effectively? Will Waller be a part of it? You know, I don't know at this point. So
if he's back, it's big.
It's huge because he's their best pass catching option.
Where do the Broncos get offense?
Well, that's the thing is I do wonder if there's this element of Drew Lock opening some things up because that is the one thing you could say about him from his college days when he got in the NFL. When he got in trouble, it was almost because he was too much of a gunslinger. That's what this offense needs.
I agree.
They need to stretch the field vertically. You can do that versus this defense. So, look, bottom line is I'm gonna take the Raiders here. I don't feel great about it though. Like this one, I could come back and regret purely because of the matchup between these two, and you get that wild card that is, you know, Drew Lock that could end up playing really well.
I like Drew Lock because he is a gunslinger, and he does, but he will turn the ball over. That's not what they want. But I'm with you, Brady. They need to let the offense free. They got weapons outside. They don't use them at all. Maybe this is the game, and we're both wrong. But I'm stick with the Raiders.
Either way, you guys are agreeing so far, and we're going to see about this next one. Bears at Seahawks, two teams. I mean, they're just playing for next year at this point right now. Seahawks favored by 6.5 at home. The total 42.5. Brady, we'll start with you.
Well, they're playing for next year, but I don't know. Is Matt Nagy going to be there? Is Ryan Pace going to be there? I mean, it's a big question. You can maybe make that case about, you know, Pete.
They don't
Carroll.
play though.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying when you're talking about just everything that's going into this and the players and how they're looking at their coaches when they are installing, when they are practicing, when they are out there in the field, those thoughts run through your head. But I think you can almost make the same case for Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, as crazy as that sounds, because maybe they're both not back in Seattle. I don't know. I know this. Russell Wilson is obviously the much better of the two quarterbacks. Justin Fields will have his time. Right now is not it. And that's another offense that, you know, in my opinion, struggles to score the football. Now, they may have a little easier time versus this Seattle Seahawks defense. I still trust Seattle, Russell Wilson, being able to cover a 6.5-point spread at home, a difficult place to play.
I'm with you. I think Justin Fields was better last week, and he's making progress. But this, you know this is a tough environment for anybody to go in and play. It's tough for a rookie quarterback to go in and play. Seattle's defense has actually played better. They did some good things against the Rams. They're playing much better. I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Chicago Bears, so I'll lay the 6.5 as well.
In this segment, you guys agree on every
I don't like
single
that.
game.
I don't like, maybe I
What's
should switch.
going
By
on
the
with
way,
that?
I like the under in this one, though. I could see this being a lower scoring game. I don't think Chicago's going to score many points. I really don't.
Russell Wilson doesn't look right.
I'd say to tell you this much: the ball looks better coming out of his hand now the past couple of weeks than it did initially. I think he's starting to adjust to the mallet finger and how it feels now. You do see more zip. You do see better actually down the field. When
if he had more zip on the one to DK Metcalf, they would have tied the game.
Let's recap their picks there. Steelers at Chiefs, they both like the Steelers. Broncos at Raiders, they both like the Raiders. Bears at Seahawks, both going with the Seahawks at home there. Brady going with the over, and then the under. Coming up next, the Washington football team heads to Dallas. They get Tyler Heineke back, but will it be enough? We'll talk about that next. Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. 2 more games to go in Week 16. We're going to get your picks for both of them. The Washington football team making a last-ditch effort to make it to the playoffs, but they're heading to Dallas. They do get Taylor Heineke back, but that's a tall task. That number's been moving in favor of the Cowboys. Dolphins winning 6 in a row, favored by 1.5, going to New Orleans. The Saints starting Ian Book. All right, let's start with Washington and Cowboys. As I mentioned, Washington does get Taylor Heineke back just in time for this game. I think the number was like a 10, 10.5, now 11 in favor of the Cowboys. Total's 47, Brady.
Yeah, I'd lay the points if you like Dallas in this case as soon as possible. It could only go up at this point. At least that's the sentiment I get. Outside of Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, they're going to have a hard time really finding playmakers and really matchups that's going to work for them in this matchup. So Dallas is a different team at home. Micah Parsons has made it a great case for being not just the defensive rookie of the year, maybe the defensive player of the year. So to me, it's the Dallas Cowboys. They're the top of this division. There's a big gap between everyone else, and I think it's going to showcase itself in this game.
We saw Washington's defense. They got gashed the other night in the run game. It was terrible. And I think Dallas has to get cranked up on offense at some point before the postseason. They've been a disappointment the last 5 weeks on offense. And I think there's people talking about Dak Prescott. He has to play better. They got to get Elliott going. This is the perfect situation for that to happen. I think they're going to blow them out. I think offensively they're going to play their best game in a long time. It's going to look like the Cowboys we expected to see. I'll lay the points. All
right, both taking the Cowboys there. Dolphins, it's Saints. We do want to start by talking about the Saints because they have a new starting quarterback in Ian Book, who you know very well.
Yeah.
You remember your first start.
I do, but we talked about this a long time ago. I thought they should have went to Ian sooner instead of talking about, putting in Taysom Hill and doing all this. And okay. We ended up losing that game, by the way. It doesn't show
That's
the
good. The Browns Nation must have thought they had Tom Brady when you did that first game.
Well, not when you lose.
That doesn't matter. Look at the numbers. If I was a Browns fan and I saw those numbers and they lost, I'd be happy about it.
The reality is he gives them a better chance, I think, than Taysom Hill. He's smart, he's accurate, he's also mobile, so he can take off and do some things. And I also think you're going to get more of a traditional running game, which helps out Alvin Kamara with some of what they're going to do. So I actually think this helps. Now, I will say this. When you look at teams who've dealt with COVID this year and how these lines move, you'll get this line start to sway even more. So we're showing the line right now at -3. I don't believe that's accurate.
It's not. It's
Dolphins minus
1.5.
So I would wait, because it might even end up being Dolphins minus 2.5. Maybe 3 when it's all said and done. That's what we've seen so far. But I like the Saints. I'll take the 1.5 in this case. I do think it'll only grow a little bit higher. I think the Saints will take care of business at home. I think Tua's going to struggle versus that stingy, nasty Saints defense. And I think Ian Book gets his first win.
Shocking. Brady's taking the Notre Dame quarterback.
Well, what are you doing, Pete?
Taking the Notre Dame quarterback. But I'm not taking him. Look, I like Ian Book. I watched him in training camp. I've watched his whole college career. I'm with you, Brady. I think the kid's smart. I think he's accurate. I think he's a little bit Drew Brees-like in some ways. And I mean, I'm not comparing him and saying he's that, but this the style. And so I like the Saints in a spot, not because of him, but because of their defense. That defense dominated the Bucs last week. They're going to dominate the Miami Dolphins offensive line. Tua's going to be on his back a lot of the game. Now that they got Davenport back and Onyemata in the middle, they can rush the passer. And so I think that's going to be a problem. And by the way,
especially with the Dolphins offensive line.
No matter what Ian Book does throwing the football, he still throws it better than Taysom Hill does.
Taysom Hill,
we called for this weeks
president.
Ago. This is the direction they should have went earlier in the year. See what you have in Ian Book before you move into the offseason.
Lock unity again. Yeah. By the way,
you acknowledge
they're still alive.
No, they are.
They're alive in the playoff chase. So Ian Book, it's your game. Go win it, and I think they will win it.
Yeah, take us into his mentality. I mean, Noah sitting throughout this much of the season and coming into this game.
I mean, everyone wants to act like you're going to make any different than what he's ever done. You're just trying to execute the game plan. You're doing what you're asked to do. You're not trying to do too much out there. I don't think the game plan will be overly complicated for his first one. Brian Flores will throw a lot of different things at you, blitz packages. The biggest key is that they stay out of 3rd and long. If they're living in 3rd and 7+ the entire game, it's going to be tough. And I think you're going to see one of a few things. Sean Payton's going to throw some screens. They'll mix in maybe some quick game off that or just 7-man protections and then block it up. They'll let the offensive line sort it out and then let him kind of pick some things apart from that. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if Sean Payton's not calling Tommy Rees and saying, hey, what does he feel comfortable with? What do we need to get him to do? And I know this news was kind of like late in the week. It is a Monday Night Football game. He's got plenty of time to prepare.
Give me his numbers. Give me the stat line for the game.
I think he goes 18 for 24 for 215 yards. And I think he throws at least one touchdown, if not two. But I think
bullish on the Irish.
I think it'll be heavy run. I do think they're going to carry.
I think he's going to play well. I think he plays well.
All right, let's recap their picks there. They both like the Cowboys to go ahead and win that one, even though it is a big number there. The Cowboys sitting at 11. Brady said, go ahead, get it there before it moves anymore. Lock unity when it comes to the Dolphins at the Saints. Both taking the Saints, and Ian Book both going with the under there. Gentlemen, it is Christmas Eve.
One quick thing. If he had gone to Arizona State, he would have taken the Dolphins. Guaranteed.
It's not true.
That is true.
Oh,
jeez.
I'm supposed to ask a Christmas question.
Why is he such? He's always the Grinch.
No, I'm not.
He's always trying to steal Christmas.
What's your favorite? Well, I don't know. I'm going to make up one right now.
Go ahead.
What are you doing for Christmas, Pete?
Going to see my dad. He's 86 years old, and can't wait to see him.
Pete, okay, here's my question. Are you on the naughty list or the nice list?
I'm on the naughty list.
Brady?
He's been on the naughty list his entire life.
All my life.
You never really got anything for Christmas, did you?
Coal. Every year.
It's coal. We're going to get you some coal.
Everybody gave me
Pete
coal.
Prisco, Brady Quinn, Amanda Guerra. If we don't see you, have a good Christmas. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.